Dear Talbot Street Church, my name is Grace. Shortly after my husband Jeff and I got married 47 years ago, we became members here at Talbot Street Church. A few years later, we started our family, welcoming our daughter Jennifer and son Jeffrey. They were both baptized here and nurtured in this community through Sunday school, and Jennifer was part of the Calvinettes girls group, where I also served as a leader for 11 wonderful years. And just a couple of years ago, our son Jeffrey was married at Talbot Street Church. You have been a part of us as much as we have been a part of you. I have found it to be true that when you bless others, you're blessed in return. I also believe that being a Christian involves serving others as Jesus serves us. I love chatting with people one-on-one, and often those I serve have become dear friends. And so I've shared my gift of serving with you as a deacon, on the care team, and as a hospital visitor. I especially love visiting people in the hospital, not necessarily something that others enjoy. I'd show up with a listening ear and a Bible, willing to bring some joy into the lives of those who were receiving medical care. One particular memory still moves me to this day. When I gathered in a hospital room with a patient, a pastor, and an elder, and we were joined together over the Lord's Supper. And while I loved providing care for others, I never anticipated being on the other side receiving care. Then again, I guess no one anticipates that. They say that when it rains, it pours. And torrential rains came down on me in 2023. It began with a poor night's sleep. I found myself uncomfortable and restless one night in August. And when morning came, I had my husband call an ambulance because I thought that I was having a heart attack. My suspicion proved to be correct, and I had 2 stents put into my heart. After all the chaos and procedures of that day, I found myself lying alone and frightened in my hospital bed that night. But I wasn't really alone. In a very real experience, Jesus came to visit me. He held out his hand and said, "Not yet, my child, not yet." I had no idea how those words would continue to sustain me in the coming months. Before my heart attack, I had scheduled an ultrasound for some pain I'd been experiencing. It seemed pretty routine at the time. So imagine the shock that Jeff and I experienced when my doctor called and told me that the ultrasound had detected a mass about the size of a large box of matches on my colon. The first time I heard the big C word, I was flabbergasted, stunned. I never expected cancer in my wildest dreams. It felt like I was thrown into a deep lake and I didn't know what was in it. Things began to move quickly. My doctor told me that the growth had to be removed right away and that treatment would be determined following the surgery. While awaiting surgery, I woke up in the middle of the night, feeling unwell. I fainted in the hallway of our home and hit my head on the wall. Another trip to the hospital revealed a non-displaced fracture in my neck and increased the urgency for the surgery. I was hospitalized on November 7, and by November 11, I was on the operating table. The surgery was a success, and I was relieved to think I could finally begin to heal. But the problem was that my body didn't heal. By Christmas morning, the incision from my surgery had become infected, and that began a very long 5-month battle against infection. Then in January 2024, I had a routine mammogram and was told that I had breast cancer. At this point, I had been through so much already, I was no longer shocked. This season felt the darkest. But I found then that the more I needed God, the more He was there. It was at my very lowest that I felt He was the closest. It seems to me that when we think we don't need Him, when our lives are going smoothly and life is good, it's so easy to forget that we can't even breathe without Him. I had always known that you were a caring community, Talbot Street Church, but I'd never been on the receiving end of such overwhelming love, support, and care. Pastor Steve called and visited regularly when I was at home and in the hospital, and he always took time to pray with us. The care team lived up to their name with visits, gifts, cards, and food that lasted 3 months. The 2 book clubs that I'm a part of would check in, providing me with encouraging texts, visits, and care. A group of quilters surprised me with a beautiful quilt they had made together, a precious gift I will always treasure that testifies to the love of those women. But it was the smaller acts of care from you, Talbot Street Church, that caught me most off guard. Each year, I find joy in sending out Christmas cards, but I wasn't feeling strong enough in 2023 to send them. Regretfully, I posted a message on Facebook letting my friends and family know that I was sorry to be unable to send Christmas cards. No sooner had I posted that than 2 women from Talbot Street Church reached out and offered to come over and write my Christmas cards on my behalf. It was a beautiful evening of fellowship and care. Being largely house-ridden following surgery, I missed being with the church community, especially at Christmas. On a cold winter night, a group of carolers from the church came to sing. Jeff and I were brought to tears. We were so moved that these brothers and sisters in Christ would come out and do this for us. It was like angels were in our home singing to us. It was a holy experience that I can't quite put into words. Our journey at Talbot Street Church began shortly after our wedding. It seems ironic, given the last couple of years, that the text for our wedding was Philippians 4, verse 6. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Then again, maybe it's not ironic, but a nudging of the Spirit, knowing what we would need to sustain us through this season. This passage has reminded me time and again that when we trust God, there's no need to worry. Faith is all about trust. In this difficult season, I have been learning to put 100% of my trust in God, knowing that I'm in God's hands. He will take care of me. This doesn't necessarily mean that I get the answer I want, but I trust that my path is set, and God is at the end of it, and He's going to greet me. It's not an exaggeration to say that through this dark season, I have been reborn in my faith. I don't know what people do without their faith. How could I have survived any or all of this? And what would I have done without a community of faith to surround and uphold me? So thank you, Talbot Street Church. You're a wonderful church. Not perfect, but indeed wonderful. You are loving, kind, and generous, and I could not picture myself at any other church.